morning, folks. How you doing? As people are piling in, we'll just give you guys a moment or two to get started again.
So hi, everyone. Welcome to our Leader Starter Kata webinar. Hank Czernacki and I are on the line. So I want to thank you for being willing to share your time with us today. So I'm Bill Kraus. I'm a manager of client services for Arkansas Manufacturing Solutions. We are a 26-year-old NIST MEP team, one of 55, made up of experienced manufacturing people. We meet with our clients in Arkansas and in an effort to understand their challenges, their opportunities, and then where we can, we help bring world-class continuous improvement solutions that we've been able to participate in through our association with 1988 NIST MEP from the beginning to the end there. So in essence, we strive to be our clients' trusted advisor. So it's a privilege to be able to share what we're learning on our continuous journey with you. And again, we appreciate and thank you for being here today. So I'm going to show my screen and hope that I have done this correctly. So are we in? Does everybody see the red Leader Starter Kata slide?
Bill, you are good to go. You look good.
All right, guys, thank you. So again, we are Arkansas Manufacturing Solutions. We're part of our Economic Development Commission, been around since 1995, and work with our 3,500 manufacturing companies across the state. So at a broader level, the Manufacturing Extension Partnership is a national network of about 51 centers, all the United States and Puerto Rico. And our mission is to enhance the productivity and technological performance of our U.S. manufacturers. Last year, we worked with almost 35,000 manufacturers. We had helped them to make significant improvements in the area of their sales, cost savings, new client investments, helping to retain, create jobs. And this is what our manufacturers have proffered based on a third-party survey. So it's wonderful stuff that's happening. If you haven't made contact with your state MEP, here's a map. All you got to do is open up the website, click on it, and you'll find the folks that are living in and around your manufacturing places. Be delighted to meet with you, I'm sure. We have been successful, and we do this by, again, meeting with our clients to understand their wants and their needs, and then where we can, we provide training, facilitating, and coaching, and we utilize all of the wonderful world-class continuous improvement concepts that are out there. In Arkansas, we basically have created our OpEx pillars to consist of three. One is Toyota Kata, and hopefully all of us have had a little time to maybe look at Kata. I know Hank sent out a bunch of links and some stuff on web that if you've got that information, then maybe begin to see it the way we do, that we utilize Kata to manage the journey. Leaders understand where we are going, and we utilize this Toyota Kata methodology to manage that journey. If you want to go to Mike's website, there it is. We then utilize all the good things about lean, those that maximize value and minimize waste. You know, what are the tools, what are the concepts that will get us there? And they include all the wonderful things that are out there now. And finally, we brought in the TWI, training within industry. It's that marvelous World War II story of how our manufacturing ancestors used the training within industry concept to be successful. Within that program, as we make changes on our journeys, how do we maintain progress? And we utilize TWI to sustain those gains and to create a stable environment. And again, if you go on the website, here it is, TWI Institute, you'll see that the program consists mainly of job instruction, job relations, and job methods. So that's what we utilize. So Toyota Kata, in the upper right-hand corner, I hope you see Mike's picture, Mike Rother. He wrote the book Toyota Kata in 2009 after having studied them for 5 or more years. And what he came up with is the idea that what they do is a routine. They practice and develop scientific thinking every day at their work. And so we took this idea with our extended MEP team, and we said, you know, maybe we can create some sort of a methodology that can help deploy this Kata concept across our network. And so we created what's called MEP Kata in a box, and we've been working on that for about 3 years now. And the 1.0 version ends this coming April. We've been doing this for about 3 years now. And the idea is to support the adoption of Kata among and with our small manufacturers and try to embed that Kata thinking. We're leveraging the extensive network of all 51 centers that have been around since 1988. So all of that wonderful knowledge, ability, and passion we are bringing in to leverage. And in so doing, we've created a simple 4-day immersion kit. We have actually has it in a roll around carry-on that you put up in the overhead bag. So no longer do we drag around the old Buzz kit. But anyway, we utilize this kit to help teach a center how to deliver it and how to use it with a specific client. And the idea is to transition this new training to additional centers around the MEP. We're working toward having brought this to 20 centers in up to 2022. And so next year we're going to begin to work on version 2.0 and try to deliver it to more. And again, we're trying to increase the adoption of Kata, and really this focus will be on developing coaches, the Kata coaches, so that we can help to maximize that Kata thinking. Again, being able to leverage all the combined efforts of all the MEPs that have been doing Kata for 10 years or more. We're trying to, again, create a simple way of simulating and training so small groups understand that. We're developing first and second coaches, really trying to go deep and robust, believing that that interaction between the coach and the learner or the coach and the leader is so important. And then finally, we want to, again, transition that to interested MEP centers. So why Kata? There's a wonderful statement out there within the Kata community that begins with the thought or the statement, wouldn't it be great if we could? And then it's about kind of filling in that blank. Wouldn't it be great if in 1 year we could? And then we have words to describe that. We have metrics to measure that. And that conversation that takes place is kind of like a catchball between the team. We begin to talk about vision, mission, values, developing strat plans, annual plans, maybe look at our HOSHN and our policy deployment, certainly look at our value streams and understand where our challenges and our opportunities are. And then taking all of that information and bundling it up. And wouldn't it be great if we could funnel that through a standard work process that creates meaningful challenges? And what comes out of this synchronization, if you will, of all this information is Rother's 4-step methodology, specifically the challenge. And that challenge is, in our case, in Arkansas, we're kind of looking at as 1 year out. Wouldn't it be great if 1 year we could be? Now, the vision to the right is that forever goal. That's that North Star, that perfection, if you will. It's Lex's moniker with relentless pursuit of perfection. So that's so far out there, it's hard to get our head around, but at least we know where it's at. So we focus on that 1 year challenge. And then to the left, we'd look at current condition. Where are we now? And since we can't go from a current to a challenge in one fell swoop, we put monthly targets out there. In 1 month, wouldn't it be great if we could improve our quality by just a small percentage of a point? Well, to do so, what obstacles are keeping us from getting there? And so which one are we going to work on, and what experiments are we going to do? So what we've done in Arkansas is sort of created a heuristic approach. We'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. But bottom line, we sit down with the leader of the organization, if you will, and we begin to look at their key performance indicators in the areas of process, communication, and people. And so there's kind of like 9 KPIs there. They're placeholders where we can put everything that's important to us under one or more of those. So the challenge that we encourage a leader to do is at 1 year out, and you see this in green, by December 31st, 2021, we'd like to be at a quality level of 7 on a scale of 0 to 10. And we'd like to be at a 5 in cost and 7 in delivery. And the thing that happens here is that this is just the opinion of the leader based on all of the knowledge, ability, and passion they have, everything that they're familiar with, all that they see, hear, and read. And it's interesting how many times the leaders will come up with a real challenge. So these green numbers represent a stretch, not a mission impossible, but not an easy one either. Then we look at the current condition based on where we'd like to be in 1 year on that 0 to 10 scale. Where are we now? And the beauty too is that the leaders who fill these out are often very humble and appropriate. They tend to rate themselves maybe even a little bit low, but they're recognizing that there's a gap. And by working on that gap, then that's where through coaching and utilizing the 4-step method and addressing challenges and metrics, we make improvements. So a little word about hypothesis. The basis of the Leader Starter Kata is simply that a leader who is in touch with their business, those who read everything, who see everything, who hear, at any time if you ask them on a scale of 0 to 10, where are they, that number becomes up really quickly. And if you were to take that relative scale and gather in all of the empirical evidence, the hypothesis is that it would be very close to the same. So although they're gut feel estimates, they're not scientifically derived, they do provide us with a starting point for working on the right things. The concept of gut feel was kind of stressed to us when we got to hear one of the recent Katacons a couple of years ago, where Mike Rother was talking about the importance of being able to tap into our instincts, if you will. And he was talking about our cave person ancestors huddled around the fire, right? It's nighttime and they hear a rustling in the bushes. And what one group gets up and runs like hell in the opposite direction. The other group gets up, scratching their beard, walking toward the sound, saying, wonder what that noise is. Well, what Mike said is that that gene pool probably didn't make it until today. So the one that did run away and live to today, that's our gut feel. We can depend on it within reason to help corroborate that we're working on the right time for the right reason. So the idea of a heuristic is simply this: they're constantly improving and tracking their results. It's a completely new way of viewing the company. They're looking forward to what they can accomplish going forward. He kind of captured, if you will, from Alice in Wonderland, but it's very important. So it talks about if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there, and that may or may not be good. So the key here is strength in leadership, and it has to be at all 3 levels. And we look at the 3 levels as top leadership, who has a responsibility to formulate a vision. Middle management understands that vision then and communicates it to the value adders, who are the most important because they actualize the vision. And unless all 3 of these levels of leadership are strong in equal measure, we have an unstable situation. And we know that it's hard to conduct continuous improvement if you don't have stability. So with Leader Starter Kata, we know that all leaders at all 3 levels have their normal sacred daily duties. They have to do these things. And what leaders we're trying to find ways that they can add just a little extra time somehow in their day to work on things that are above and beyond what their normal daily duties are. Otherwise, it's kind of business as usual. And Nate O'Neill with Arkansas Lime here in town, here in Arkansas, had a great saying. He said, "Let's spend time working in the wedge." So let's look at the 3 words in terms of what they mean. A leader may delegate, but ultimately they are responsible for the results. They have to tend to their daily duties, but also dedicate time to addressing obstacles. Again, otherwise it's business as usual and firefighting changes nothing. So the import of the leader. The word starter. Sometimes we are in a reactionary mode to kind of play industrial whack-a-mole. We're all over the place. And it can be a little paralyzing or frustrating as to where we begin. Well, the beauty of Kata is that it just begins with the first step. The journey is navigated, path manifests daily with a compass rather than a predetermined roadmap. And finally, the all-important word Kata, simply a routine. Most CI initiatives fail to sustain because they haven't inculcated that disciplined daily routine. And so Kata is sort of the antidote to that failure. And it's all about daily purpose-driven activity, maximizing resources in pursuit of improvement. That word daily is important. So can we all say it on 3? 1, 2, 3. Can you say daily? No, I'm hearing it. What's the goal of Leader Starter Kata? Using the 4-step method. It's a 4-step continuous improvement method in pursuit of a well-defined challenge. You can see number 1 there. That's that challenge. It's utilized by designated leaders, again, at all 3 levels. It's used to confirm almost instantaneously progress, if you will, and it over time is intended to affect good cultural change. And leaders have to do, again, something inspirational on a daily basis. So why is it important? Well, again, we're trying to maximize the value of limited and available resources by guaranteeing that we're working on the right things at the right time for the right reason. Kata coaches working with leaders and learners help those individuals to tell themselves what they need to do rather than us as consultants coming in necessarily telling them what they should do. So it's the dialogue between the coach and the leader learner is really important in order to make sure that we're working on the right things. We're also trying to break through this business as usual paradigm by, again, finding a little time to work on things above and beyond our normal duties. And then we want to ensure and validate that progress is in fact being made on the responsible leaders, based on the responsible leaders assessment. So how do we improve? Well, this is Hank's slide, absolutely love it. Improvement usually takes time. So there's a couple of 3 ways maybe. Projects generally take a long time to complete and maybe are just done by one person, but the impact is huge. So we certainly know that projects are a great way to continuously improve. Kaizen events bring small groups of teams together to, over time, occasionally do events as needed in order to make improvement. That's clearly a great way to continue to improve. And with Kata, what we're simply saying is let's engage everybody at all 3 levels of the organization. Again, can you say daily? And be involved in continuous improvement. And I think it was Taiichi Ono who said, every day a little up, some days big up. So again, the idea here is to use the right approach at the right time for the right reason in order to improve. The primary responsibility, if you will, of a leader is to change culture, make a positive impact, whether it's a leader at the top leadership or the middle management or the evaluators. There are leaders there that can affect a positive culture change. So typically, what does the organization or the team distribution look like before a culture change? Well, on the right-hand side, you've got early adopters. These are those people who always see the possibility in things, drive you crazy with ideas. It's wonderful. Opposite end, we've got the proverbial cave dwellers, citizens against everything. Whatever reason, bless their hearts, they're just afraid to come out into the light. And then we have that big group, the fence straddlers, the wait and see. So a leader's responsibility and obligation and opportunity is to take all of these individuals right where they are and begin to do everything possible to help them move to a better position. Now, having done that, having done all that they can, sometimes it's hard, but sometimes for the leader, it's easier to just go ahead and change people. Thank you, you tried, didn't work, we need to let you go. It's the last resort. So sometimes it's easier to just change people than it is to change people. And we are always wanting to do everything we possibly can, taking people right where they are. If you, we all, as we think about it, all of us on the call here today, we have primary roles to play on our teams. Hopefully we're part of a value adding proposition where we can earn money and take care of our family. So what do we contribute? What is our potential value as our role on the team, whether we're plant managers or engineers or maintenance or sales, customer service, whatever? What's our potential value? Well, at any given time, the value we bring to the game is simply our collective knowledge. When we get right in our head, we've got knowledge. How well do we understand our role as a member of the team? How well do we know? So as the wheels are turning right now for all of us, if I think about my level of knowledge based on the role that I play, I could give it a number between 0 and 10. Well, this is just our own reflection. So as we go through this, ask yourself, what level of knowledge do you have? Where are you? Not only that, but what about your ability? You get right in your hands, you have ability. Being able to do what we're being asked to do is another matter. So how good are we at what we do? Perhaps most importantly, what's our level of passion? You get right in your head, you get knowledge, you get right in ability, in your hands, you got ability, and you get right in your heart, you have passion. How much do we really love what we're doing? And those candid numbers pertain to our own assessment of our potential value. So let's just imagine if we took that
Folks, I see it's frozen up again. Sorry about that. I don't know what the problem is here. I'm assuming it's on his end.
She's only been on the team a very short period of time. She has very low knowledge and ability, but she's on fire. Her passion level is an 8. Ralph, been around for a while. He's kind of a fence walker. He's been around for a little bit. He's a 5. Jack, been around for a long time.
Folks, I don't think it's you. Maybe it's raining in Arkansas right now. I'm not really sure. But he is frozen and he'll be back.
The tipping point is the point at which a series of small changes or incidents become significant enough to cause a larger or more important outcome. So it's kind of like the every day, sometimes we walk in, we see organizations where all they do, it just sounds like they're pushing a boulder up a hill on a mountain of waste, and they just never quite get beyond it. Reminds us of maybe of the Greek philosophy, the Greek mythology, the bad king Sisyphus, where he was condemned to pushing a boulder up the hill every day, only to have it roll back, and that was his punishment every day. So leaders are trying to get us beyond this tipping point where all of sudden things happen. So when you look at that, it's basically a cultural change. And what happens to those early adopters that were before? What about the wait and see, or what about our beloved cave dwellers? Well, when that effective leader creates that culture change, what ends up happening is we end up creating more early adopters. We help to convert our wait and sees, and maybe encourage the cave dwellers to come out into the light. So how is Leader Starter Kata implemented? Well, again, it's all based on the 4-step method, and we begin by selecting a process. This could be a machine, it could be a line, it could be a plant, it could be a maintenance, it could be customer service, sales, engineering, lab, it's anywhere. First thing, develop a challenge statement. In 1 year, wouldn't it be great if we could? And here's how we're going to measure this success. So a date, words to describe what it is we're wanting to achieve in 1 year, and how it's going to be measured. Next, then, we define the current condition relative to that information. And all this is a gap, right? We know the definition of a problem, the gap between where we are and where we want to be. At this point, we need to step back and set a target condition, because we can't go from a current to a future challenge in one fell swoop. So let's just create a 1-month target condition. And with that, we step back and say, okay, if we want to make an improvement in, say, quality or cost or delivery or any of them, what obstacles are keeping us from making those improvements? And once we identify those obstacles, then let's begin to conduct PDCA cycles. Let's conduct those experiments. And this is really where the leader rubber meets the road, so to speak. It's imperative that the leader be involved in describing the step. It's ideal if he or she can actually write it down with their own tactile pen and pencil. The idea being that if you write it down, it has a chance of happening. 2016 NPR Morning Edition, they're interviewing David Crosby. He's talking about, Crosby, Stills, and Nash, Young, talking about one evening he and Joni Mitchell are having a creative conversation. And he's saying something going on, and she finally raises her hand and says, "Stop and write that down." And he said, "What? Write what down?" She says, "Well, what you just said." And he said, "Why?" And she said, "Because if you don't write it down, it didn't happen." When I heard that and I think about this, I think this leader describing the step and writing down what they expect to happen is critical. And then after it's happened, what actually happened and what did they learn? Because that allows that leader then to continue experimenting. Otherwise, this initiative ceases. Everything's based on the leader Starter Kata is based on Rother's Toyota Kata storyboard, which is also located at the process to corroborate. And we look at things like the challenges and KPIs. We look at monthly progress charts, obstacles, KPI experiments, and monthly explanations. And these 5 tabs are what is embedded in the Excel playbook for Leader Starter Kata, which we've been using in Arkansas for about 3 years now. Now, when you ask a leader, well, how are you doing in quality, or where would you like to be? Sometimes it's difficult in the case of quality, cost, delivery, any of those, to really come up with a concrete statement that says, this is what we mean by quality or cost or delivery or whatever. So what we've done is just created a simple generic starting point that maybe that leader can benchmark his or her thoughts against. And so simply goes like this. We look at process, communication, and people, and we say, we provide a product that is of the highest possible quality. Love to have it free, but it's not going to happen. So for the lowest practical cost, we want it delivered with great customer service. We want to share the information accurately, completely, and timely. We also want to do all of this safely with kind regard for the environment and a delightful morale. And this is the part where we get the amen and the group hug, and then we move on. So first tab, sit down with the challenge and identify the challenges and the KPIs, associated KPIs, based on that generic starting point. This is the leader's scorecard. This is one that's actually in progress right now, started at the first of the year. They have a rallying cry. They want to raise the bar every day. Their key performance indicators, again, are process, communication, and people. And what they have said is, if you look at the green line, these leaders, in this case, there's more than one person, have said, you know, by January 1st, 2023, we'd like our quality to be at a 9.5, our cost to be at an 8.5, delivery, etc. And overall, we'd like to be at a 9.0 1 year from now. So if you come back and you ask us how we're doing in quality, we'll tell you we are functioning at a 9.5, and here's the backup information, etc., etc. Relative to that future, by the way, these leaders tend to rate to put these numbers out there where they are a wonderful stretch. They're not mission impossible, but they're not a slam dunk either. In like manner, these leaders have tended to be very humble in how they view themselves. They're not overinflating things. So if you look at the red lines, in this case, the leader said, you know, we'd like to be at a 9.5 green, but we're at a 6.5 red, etc. So the gap there between the future 1 year out of 9.09 and a current of 7.08 is presented here. The next line down, which is item line number 1, this is the results that they achieved during the month of January. They actually did some experiments that improved their quality, which went from 6.5 to 6.75, as noted in green. Nothing changed on their cost, but they were able to solve some quality problems, so their delivery went up. Communication, safety, environment, about the same, but by the way, the morale went up a little bit because the operators appreciated being involved in the conversation. So again, the future challenge of 9.0, where the leader wants to be in 1 year, current condition of 7.08, where the leader feels they are as of today. Let's go to work on the gap. So second tab in the Excel playbook is simply a graph that shows incrementally the growth month to month from 7.08 up to 9.09 for the overall progress. And as you can see, there's a little green line that went from 7.08 to about 7.17. So we colored it green because it went up. If there was no change, it would be black, and if it actually went down, it would be red. So this is a month-to-month visual declaration of how they're doing with overall progress. Same form can be used to really narrow down on maybe quality or delivery or safety or whatever. Staying on the concept of quality, this is a snapshot of the process quality KPIs. So in this box here, there's 3 spaces that the team could put information in about what obstacles are inhibiting their progress. And what they came up with was, in the yellow, it says not communicating line defect results back to the individual worker does not provide them an opportunity to make mistakes, as seen in our metrics of first pass yield, defects in units, defects per unit, etc. So this is the obstacle parking lot for quality. They could have another one for cost or delivery or safety or morale. It's just, where do they want to go and how do they want to define their obstacle? So with this yellowed obstacle statement, we now render this into the obstacle upper left-hand corner statement and begin to conduct KPI experiments. So In this case, this is the quality KPI experiments record. They are looking at focus process, a bottling line. Charles happens to be their leader learner. AMS is the coach. So the coach's responsibility at this point is to look at this obstacle and help Charles, in this case, take a step, formulate a step. And in doing a little catchball, the coach and Charles came up with this statement. On January 1st or January 10th, Charles decided to meet with production to discuss how to identify causes for defects. As a coach, we look at that and say, hey, that makes good sense. Let's just go and see. Now, what do we expect? Charles, what do you think would happen there? And Charles said, well, we think the operators are going to need to be consulted in order to really figure out what are the key categories. As a coach, it says, you know, that sounds good. Now let's complete the coaching cycle, conduct the experiment, and Charles comes back the next day and writes in what actually happened. Operators were frustrated and they determined the jams, etc., were the problem. So what's the next step? 3 days later, Charles went out and put up some check sheets. He figured it'd take a little amount of time to get the information, but they actually, in discovering this, they found a loose guide connector that was causing misalignments, and they realized they needed to ensure the bolts. So that following day, they applied some Loctite to the bolt to keep it from guiding. They figured misalignment of bottles would eliminate it, and sure enough, they had zero defects over about a 3-shift period. And what they learned is that Loctite works. Now, what guides the conversation? It's just not a free-for-all. There's a very formal way of approaching this. And as much as practical, we follow the 5 questions card, and there are 2 sides to that Kata coaching card. So the last tab then is some monthly explanations, just a simple opportunity for the team to sit back and say, you know what, we went up about a 1/4 point in quality during the month of January because quality improved because we were able to eliminate the bottle misalignment issue, which is causing defects. So we give ourselves a little bump there. And by the way, delivery went up because we shipped more products as a result of making fewer defects. And finally, our morale improved because we involved the team. So this is that has been the 5 tabs that we utilize to guide a leader over a 1-year period. Some of our clients have gone maybe 6 months. We've had a few that are actually going over a year. So the purpose here, the primary purpose of Leader Starter Kata is just really, it's for that leader, and again, that leader at all 3 levels, top leaders, middle managers, and value adders, strengthen all 3 levels. It's patterned after Rother's 4-step method, the 5 questions card, and the on the floor Kata storyboard. It's a weekly series of executive coaching sessions with an organizational leader facilitated by a Kata coach. A couple of years ago, when a pandemic started, we had to go virtual. What we found is very effectively, once a week, we had a Zoom call utilizing the Excel spreadsheet playbook with the leader in very effective way in working through the KPIs and managing the process. So as much as possible, we like to go on site, and we're quite comfortable and confident about doing this virtually. So again, it's just a simple, quick, easy method utilizing that 0 to 10 gut feel that helps a leader to ensure that they're working on what's important to them. Okay.
Let me see here. Let me see. Yep, we're back. Bill, I think you've done a really wonderful job of explaining a version of Kata that most people can get behind. It's simple, it's easy. It's not too rule-based. There are some guidelines, though. And I personally would love to hear a little bit more about the human side of this.
Yeah, great question. I think we probably all are seeing that no matter what programs we're offering. It's kind of like they're all too busy cutting down a tree to sharpen the saw, bless their collective hearts, because, you know, with the great resignation, if you will, we're losing people, a great deal of turnover, short staff, trying to do more than we possibly can. And so, you know, how do we find time to try something else? Well, again, if we don't try something else, it's business as usual, and it's very frustrating. So yeah, one of the major issues is trying to slow down long enough to consider something. Not too long ago, we did all of our training in the classroom. We put people in the seats and had death by PowerPoint. Now we're trying to do much more of that on the floor, interacting with people and helping them to make things really happen as quickly as possible. So I think people see it as a very hopeful thing and a very useful thing. And how do they find time to do it? So, that's one of the challenges that we've had.
Couple of questions that did come up. One earlier in the presentation was, hey, don't we want the value adders to collaborate with middle and top leadership to better inform the development of the vision? And the question was, is that part of this adoption of Kata? I think I know the answer, but I'll let you answer it, Bill. So should the value adders be collaborating with middle and top leadership to develop the vision?
The idea of the 4-step method begins with that vision, and the idea of the 3 layers of top leadership, middle managers, and value adders is intended to be inclusive. So the learner or the leader who is working the Toyota Kata methodology, it's kind of like the Lorax, they speak for the trees, meaning that leader or that learner has the voice of the value adders, right? They know intimately what they need in order to be successful. So that value adder voice is extremely important as it cascades upward from the value adders. The middle managers then, who are often the Kata coaches, are the ones who begin to interpret and translate that, and they continue to do catchball with upper management, or the top leadership, I should say. So that's how we see all 3 levels being involved in the Kata conversation. It keeps us, it puts us in the mode of doing Kata with them rather than doing Kata to them. And I think we all learned in the past that a lot of times we went out, good intentions notwithstanding, and we kind of imposed lean on our team members. We really didn't do it with them. Well, the freeing value of Kata is that it includes all 3 levels of the organization, and it facilitates that conversation when it's done as intended. You can still do Kata to people, but that's not the intent, and that's where the Kata coach helps to guide accordingly.
Yeah, and as you start to look, I think sometimes we get very caught up in, this is what, say, Mike Rother said. And I think when Bill started to really realize a gap for the Leader Starter Kata, he really saw that here's some small, medium-sized manufacturers that are really struggling to articulate the vision, or they're coming up with a very generic vision out there. And Bill really said, let's start with Leader Starter Kata. Let's numerate it, 1 to 10 out there, and let's just get going. And as we're going with our coach and we're doing our experiments, we're understanding our current condition so much better. And then once we understand that current condition, then it can feed back, and we can really develop and we can define our vision, and we can develop and articulate our challenges much more clear. But it really started with, let's start practicing the methodology, just like Mike Rother said. Sometimes you start with the Kata and you don't have a challenge, you get going, and then eventually the challenge will come. That same thinking Bill applied to basically vision, challenge, target, condition.
So there is a question here. Somebody said it's not clear really what the difference between a vision, a challenge, and a target condition is. Could you just kind of go over that real quick?
Great. That's a really important question and a great one. If you look at the visual, it's a linear, right? The first, the blue circle to the right was called vision, and that's the North Star. That's perfect for any company. It doesn't relate, except that it gives us a definitive endpoint that we're shooting for. And again, going back to what Toyota's moniker says, a relentless pursuit of perfection. Toyota knows what that looks like. Okay, now let's just set that out there. Now, since we can't achieve that, it's not possible, because perfection is not possible. But let's get our head around a challenge. A challenge is often derived from the learning to see value stream mapping exercise. Let's figure out, what does the future look like, maybe 1 to 3 years out. Well, in Leader Starter Kata, we just simply said, let's take that challenge, let's make it 12 calendar months, plop it out there, and and let's just talk the company through that. So that challenge statement is in line with the vision. There's 2 points in a line, but to get a straight line, you need that third point. So based on that challenge, that 1-year challenge, let's benchmark it again based on where we are today, the current condition, and then let's just set a target condition, which is nothing more than the numerical difference in the 0 to 10 scale between the challenge and the current condition. Divide it up into 12 chunks, just put a little quarter point out there, whatever it is, and say, okay, what's keeping us from getting there? And at the end of the month, the leader says, did we make it? If so, why? Did we improve? Did we go from a 5.5 to 5.75? So the vision is extremely important. And in Rother's early material, that vision challenge was all out there, and it's really critical that we know what that looks like. But we can't do something about it, but we can do something about a challenge.
Okay, good. Number of questions or comments that you guys can feed off of. So one real simple one, how many of these Kata initiatives can you do at one time?
One more time, Manny, how do we what?
How many of these Kata initiatives can you do at one time with a company?
Oh, that's a great question. So at one time I had 7 of them going as a member of the AMS team, and it basically entailed when we kick it off, we do a one day on site to really kind of pull it together and create that starting point. And after that, they are weekly sessions, and these sessions last anywhere from a half hour to a couple hours. I'd set aside 3 hours for every company that I worked with. So everything was done virtually. It's like the storyboard conversation. They had all the documentation prepared ahead of time. We pulled it up. As a coach, we went through using the 5 questions card and just talked through. And again, the coach's responsibility is to help the leader learner to declare what they're going to do next step. So if that's all I had to do in my week, it would be no problem. But we also have on-site other events that we have too. So, that's how many I had. Now back to the question, I also have a company who is starting the second iteration where they had 3 production lines. All 3 of their lines were doing individual kata. The plant manager and his line leads and their supervisors were on the call, and we basically set aside about a 4-hour session for them. So again, it can be the idea of kata within a company is to everybody on the line everywhere has an individual kata that supports the overall plant wide. So we've had multiple katas, and I'm facilitating multiple katas. So I hope that answered the question.
And Bill, I would chime in there. I always hate to say it depends, but it depends, right? How fast do you as a leadership want to go? And then what are you willing to pony up in terms of resources? Because you never want to outrun your coverage. If you want to really take kata and you really want to immerse your team, you've got to put the time, the talent, the treasure up to make it happen. If you don't have it, just scale back and make sure that that you are able to develop, you're able to coach, you're able to stretch the learners to their knowledge threshold.
That is an extremely important statement. I absolutely see it the same way, Hank. And on that remark here, what we have learned is to go slow to grow fast. The inch wide, mile deep. Let's don't try to solve world hunger or boil the ocean. Let's just pick an area and just get started and learn as we go. So we want to learn kata first. It's great if we can achieve things, but it's most important to get the team together, create an environment where we can practice and be diligent. And again, it's that magic word daily. We have to do a little something every day. And like Hank just said, it's sometimes we don't have the resources. There are other competing things. So it's not an easy decision to make, and yet it is an easy thing to do when it's kept small and appropriate.
Sure, okay. I'll save the comments for the end, but somebody said kudos for the change people versus changing people slide. Highlight resistance that you or your colleagues experience. So the question was, can you summarize some of the types of resistance and how you address them? I mean, this is a whole other program, so try and keep it to like, 20 minutes or something.
Yeah, isn't that a great
so
question?
How do you summarize the types of resistance and how do you address them?
Yeah, that is such a great, I mean, we're dealing with it all of us are. That's the road, the bump in the road that we run up against all the time. So how do you respond to people? To some, it's just a job. To some, they're predisposed to want to try something new. Others, they don't want to. And in this great resignation that we're going through, how does a leader inspire someone to be willing to consider and not resist? And I wish I had the answer. I think, like Hank said, it depends. And I think it's based on the strength of the leader to say to Bill, if you'll just consider this program and bring what you can to bear, and life gets better. I mean, why are we in business? Why do we work for the companies? There's only one reason. And in my mind, it's a blessing to have a job and be part of a value-adding proposition, because at the end of the day, if I contribute value, I earn money, take care of myself and my family. So to the point of the resistance, it's at the existential level. Otherwise, it's just a job. And I'm open to anything and everything that we can talk about to help in that regard. But it is about changing culture and changing attitudes and all that. I love that. I love that Toyota hires for attitude and trains for aptitude. I think that is so important.
Well, and Bill talked about sustaining the gains and mentioned training.
So let me ask another question. What happens when you've seen C.A.V.E. people at the executive level? Is culture change even possible at that point?
That actually happened? Actually, there could be C.A.V.E. people at the top level. Yeah, I mean, it's true that distribution, that thinking. I mean, it's there. It's the human condition. And same reason, that top leader has the ability to affect such wonderful things. And if he or she can't, won't, or don't, then sometimes it's time to change. And that would be true at all levels. But we first do everything we can to try to provide that leader at the top level to come around, if you will, because their job is to lead and not to sabotage or stay in the cave.
Sure. Here's another great question. Can Kata be implemented even if the company doesn't have lean as a CI strategy?
Great question. My guess would be that maybe they don't have a formal approach to it, but if they're in business to earn a living and make a profit, then they know they've got to do things differently and they've got to try to improve. So all Kata does is it gives them an idea of where they want to be and where they are, and then they can begin to kind of roll up their sleeves and start practicing more lean initiatives. It may not be the time to bring in Six Sigma black belts. Maybe we just need to do a quick value stream map, or maybe so we know what we're looking at. Or how about 5S? Anybody not in favor of 5S? Let's just clean the place up. And as we do these things and utilize these tools, stuff happens and the business changes. So no, I don't think we have to have a formal lean program where everybody's been certified or trained. I think it's the desire to change and be part of a value-adding proposition.
Just wanting to get better. Wanting to get better and just having a more formal approach for that. No, I like it. I'm going to try and get a couple more questions if that's okay. I know we're a little bit over, so if folks have to leave, I get it. How about this? Can we start with practical problem-solving training and Kata at the same time? How can we start with a company in early production mode where they're transferring product to the facility? So what comes first, the chicken or the egg?
Yeah, I think Kata is, and the leader starter Kata approach is, it's a supplement. It's not let's see, what am I trying to say? It complements, it doesn't supplant. In other words, the leader starter Kata approach is really just, hey, leader, what do you think? How we doing? And where's the empirical evidence? What's your opinion? And we just put that up on the board. So whether you're doing the 8-step problem solving or Kepner-Trego or any of the problem-solving things, A3s, whatever, all of that is absolutely critical. Keep doing it. Kata, I think, is intended to make sure, again, that we're working on the right things at the right time for the right reason. And all these wonderful tools are out there, so let's use them. But let's utilize them and not just use them. Make sure that they are serving us. Sometimes I did a TWI event with Union Boiler, Union Pacific in North Little Rock, and they were told by corporate that all their managers, thou shalt learn TWI-JI. Well, they almost killed me. They could have almost killed me. They were very kind, but this is the deal where they imposed TWI on an organization that had no business trying to do that. So other things worked for them, and we should utilize them appropriately if they help to affect a good culture.
Wow, Bill, you may have to come back. There's more questions that we can handle, and they're more complex. It's not just a yes, got it, good, got it, bad. It's not like, these are serious questions here. I'm not sure what we'll do about that. Maybe we'll schedule you back on again. Maybe come on the evening series where we have a little bit more flexibility.
I will send out the presentation. I also put Bill's contact information if you want to contact him directly.
Great, excellent.
Great. Thank you for that. So we will be sending out the slides. That was yet another question. And the other thing that I was going to say is that Bill's going to see all of these questions and the people who asked them. So I'm not promising anything of Bill's time, but my guess is that he will probably answer everything that he has the ability to do.
I'd be honored to continue the conversation. Thank you, Manny.
Great. Okay, so we'll talk through that because I think there's much more about that. Lots of thank yous. Okay, got more than I usually see, so thank you. Really do appreciate it. That's all. On behalf of Lean Enterprise Division, Bill and Hank, thank you both very much for the time that you put into this and the willingness to share your knowledge freely. Really do appreciate it.
Thank you, Manny. Thank you, everyone.
All right.